All right. Welcome everybody to Sewing Circle, my friends. How we doing?
Hi,
Um,
Jason.
Today we've got an artist talk with Jade. Also, I
Hi.
did forgot to ask you this before. Jade, how do you pronounce your last name?
Win, like
Win.
Win.
Okay, cool. So we got Jade Huynh here, origami artist, installation expert extraordinaire. Really excited because I think Jade offers something quite a bit different than the painting, ceramics, all the other stuff that we've talked about so far. So we'll hang out and hear Jade and about talk about her practice and some insights about her making process, and then we'll get into just chilling and hanging out in the usual. So, Jade, we're excited to hear from you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for joining today, everyone. I'm excited to hang out and talk art with all of you.
Well, anytime you're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Cool.
So do you just want me to talk?
Yep. Yep. You're up.
Sure. Yeah, so I guess my creative elements and experience vary in different industries. I started cooking when I was 19, and I retain a lot of skill sets for being a French pastry chef. I don't actively cook in kitchens anymore, but I do enjoy being able to participate in events. I'll do some catering at some times, or more recently, I just launched a virtual pop-up around Valentine's Day. So my intention with that was more of offering both pastry and my origami work on one platform. And it was a lot of fun. It was a catalog that I would say I would identify as a catalog just because I aimed to do a various amount of, I guess, different categories. And it was a lot of fun. But through cooking, I learned a lot of, I would say the main thing is discipline, of how to apply and where to apply your energy and hard work. And I cooked for maybe about 6 years, and I had the opportunity to run my own pastry program. It's kind of the dream job once you get out of culinary school. And about 3 months into it, I was at work one day and I was plating my desserts. You know, it's a normal day, and I just was thinking to myself how unhappy I was, and how that none of this made sense, what I was feeling. And I think I was trying to talk myself out of what I was experiencing, but pretty much I was 24 and I realized I wasn't happy doing the thing I thought I would be happy dedicating my time and my life to. All of these years of learning and cooking and, you know, aiming for that end goal. And I realized it was because I was happier spending my time making origami art, which was still very small at that time. It was very much just me creating projects and doing things on my off time that didn't revolve around cooking, but kind of reigniting, excuse me, a childhood hobby. And then the curiosity just grew. Because when most people think of origami, and at that time, when I thought of origami, I was only folding the models that I would check out from the library or from my origami books. And once you completed the model, you know, that's it. I didn't like the way that felt. And I felt like there was something that I could give to the origami artwork that might have been worth pursuing. And I don't know if it's something I would say that I give it a personality, I give it emotion, but it's kind of like that magic wand. I think that it needs to like flourish. And I don't think it's anything that I woke up and it was a very distinct, I recognize that, you know, origami is going to be my path. Nothing's really ever that simple. And you know, some people do know what their path is. And I think for me, I had to try, I had to finish what I started, which was pastry, and I had to try my best. I did. And I was able to still balance origami as a hobby. And then, you know, the next thought to my problem solving of my unhappiness working at my dream job was to give everything I got to growing my origami. And what did I define growing as at that point? You know, there was no definition. It was just more progress and getting more work done, being being more active in the arts community. I would say definitely being an artist helped me seek more groups, more folks that also experienced or are experiencing like similar things, or maybe that just like to create and are looking for company. Like art has done so much more than just give me the ability to make pretty things and do cool things. The connections made that through the arts organizations that I've worked for have been really lovely. And it makes me feel proud to have been able to contribute to the community, not only with food, but with art. And
Jade, can you tell us some of the organizations that because you obviously work for
Nima?
NEMA in Minneapolis, right? So maybe just a little bit of that would be helpful, just for context and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding me. So NEMA was a large art organization back in Minneapolis. I'm sorry, I'm getting a phone call right now. And NEMA stands for Northeast Minneapolis Art Association, and they put on the largest open studio event in the country every year. And it's called Art World, and it's about mid-May, around springtime. It's an incredible event about over, I don't know, I would say like 10 studio artist buildings. One building alone has over 400 studios, and it's a nationwide event, but it's definitely a staple for locals. So I guess my short story with being with NEMA is that starting on my origami journey and kind of closing that chapter, or beginning to close that chapter for pastry, I always admired NEMA as an art association. And then fast forward a few years later, I was able to work for them. And I worked for them for 4 years, and I was their operations assistant. So I got to do a lot of important things and helping artists in the community, and learned a lot. Nonprofit work is very hard, though. It's not for the faint of heart. Nobody's happy. But you try your best, and everyone has a positive mental attitude. So I would say my main takeaway from working with NEMA is that refreshing reminder of how kind and that there are good people in the world that care and that will give what they can to see those things through. So that was NEMA.
Cool.
Yeah. Is there any questions? I'm really bad at talking about things out of thin air.
We can do some prompts. So actually, we have other some pieces here that we can show folks
Oh,
too,
sure.
and
Yeah.
maybe you can take us through either like the materials you're using, or kind of the inspiration and some of those sorts of things.
Sure. So what we're currently looking at is the wreath that's hanging on my bedroom door, which I can proudly say. So I also used to work at Paper Source and just avidly shop there. And they have these wonderful, convenient paper wreath forms that aren't, done up. You can buy them. And I love doing projects that are kind of halfway done like that. You already have an idea of what you're going to create. So it eliminates that 3-hour process of me trying to figure out what I'll make. But I love these wreaths. I make a lot of origami flowers, and I think just in general, wreaths are just a great platform to showcase florals. But I wanted to make a wreath that wasn't super colorful, that wasn't your base, like your ideal springtime wreath that you think about, or a modern wreath. And I wanted to still use my favorite origami flower incorporated in it. But I wanted to also make it look like, oh, I want to pretend that I'm creating this for Crate and Barrel. What would I make? Something really modern, something really sleek. And the nice thing about my favorite flower to make, which is called the kusudama flower, a little origami 101. Kusudama flower is a modular flower, and modular means that it takes more than one unit or module to complete. The kusudama flower takes 5 modules. But as you can see in the picture, I only use 3 modules per kusudama unit so that it laid flat on the wreath. And the kind of paper that I used, oh, I hate it when this happens, when I go shopping and I find this amazing material and it's on clearance, so there's like 2 left in the world. But it was this marble printed paper that I believe that was partially made out of stone as well. And I don't know how familiar with paper most of you are, but stone paper, Paper Source sells a ton of them right now, and the feel of them is so much different. It's not crispy like think of even printer paper, right? It's got this like delicate softness, and it's really cool. It's super easy to crease. It's soft on your fingers. It's quiet, doesn't crinkle. So this was like taking out the savings account kind of paper for me. But yeah, I wanted to create something that ideally is delicate, springtime modern wreath with flowers, and I wanted to add, I don't know if you could have said that I was able to conceptualize this prior, but I wanted to add a little edge, something else to it. I couldn't really identify it. I just made all my units, and then I kind of sat at the table and played around with how I wanted the orientation. And I hated that it was as simple as just making a ring. But when I look at it, it looks complete. It looks the way I feel it's supposed to look. And with that, it's very interesting because based on the projects, my deciding factor when it is finished will always be different depending on what I'm making.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's funny, the internal conversation you probably had where like, I don't want it to be as simple as a.
Yeah. Literally. It's like, did I even try?
Actually, right. Yeah. Yeah. We also got a couple more. Yeah, maybe this one might be a good one too. Like we talked about, I know that you sometimes use painting too, right? And when you're making pieces. And so can you talk a little bit, this is either a good example, or we can do, this one's, no, that's not as much painting, but yeah, maybe we can talk about like how you're using materials between the origami. Obviously origami also has this like super long tradition, right? Thousands and thousands of years old, and how you're thinking about the way you're creating these sorts of pieces with adding in the painting.
So it's been a lot of fun not staying inside that box of traditional origami. And traditional origami is defined as one sheet, no glue, no scissors, which is fine. It's enjoyable, but I realize that not only is origami the medium I enjoy, but origami flowers are my medium. And I couldn't really tell you why. I thought about playing with other shapes, and sometimes I do. Sometimes I think about using other muses. I don't know if that isn't even the right word, but it's always going back to the flowers. That's like where the thought and the creativity begins. So I'm just kind of not fighting it. But, you know, think about how many different ways you can showcase bouquets. And that's still ever growing. I think the way that I approach, you know, any kind of canvas work or any kind of work with origami, especially now, is how do I do this in a way where it is truly unique on its own, that it's not kind of mirroring a trend or anyone's previous work or could potentially fall into that. So it's like executing from start to finish. It's like someone's dining experience from the time they say hello to the host to the time they put on their coat and leave. I try to think of that as a whole. But, you know, with printed paper, such as the one in this picture, this was actually during a time when I was just taking a little break from art. And I came across this really beautiful print at a bookstore, a couple sheets of it left, bought it. And I just folded my favorite flower. And I think depending on the way I want the piece to make folks feel will determine on how I face the flowers, how I position them. Will it be angled? Will they be straight up? Will they be laying flat so that it's easy to view, like a more pleasant, easy on the eyes? And for this particular one, it was a circular canvas, so it's super fun for me to work with. I don't typically work with circular canvases too much. They're like special in the clearance section. But yeah, I wanted it to really have a soft feeling with a curved canvas frame. And since the petals to my flowers are typically really pointed, you know, lots of edges, it will balance out with that softness. And I just made sure to stay, you know, 3-color max palette. When I paint with origami, it's meant to help illuminate it, right? Help bring up the origami, bring up the work. It's not meant to take away, or the origami is not meant to work around the painting in the background. And, you know, sometimes those lines are easily crossed, easily blurred, not seen. This one is particularly easy though. I mean, it's just really like, I think of Hawaii, I think of just blooms of flowers, and I wanted to for sure use one really bright fuchsia. I wanted to add in some fun gold, you know, polka dots that were contained in an area. A very nice calming blue. You know, I didn't really want to take that seafoam green that's in the print from the petals because I feel like it would compete with the fuchsia at that point. But, you know, I'll throw the flowers on the canvas and I'll almost play with the alignment and the composition of where the origami goes first. And then after that, I can start to visualize and see, okay, does it need paint? where should I put this? Because the moment the glue hits the paper to go on the canvas, that's like the one and done. And then if you want a second chance, then you just have to refold more or be really good at pulling the glue off of the paper.
How good are you at pulling glue off of paper?
I mean, usually I can catch it when like the glue, because I'll use a hot glue gun, so it'll still be hot.
Gotcha.
But the idea is to not panic and touch it when it's too hot. I just need it to cool enough so I could just peel it off. And then whew, nothing happened. Evidence is taken care of.
Yeah. Cool. Man, do you want to show what else we got? Be this one or the other one? Or which one do you prefer? It's up to you.
Ooh, so they're both for the same client actually, but they both incorporate different techniques. I'm trying.
Cool.
Let's do the one below that first.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So these two are the one prior that Jordan was also showing. And this particular one we're looking at, we're part of a set that was commissioned by, I guess you could say, an architecture managing firm. Pretty much they had a client that was a developer and they wanted to be selected to be the ones to, you know, do all the residential designs for the building. And just so happens that building has a Japanese French fusion restaurant that is getting a lot of attention. And it's kind of like, oh, that's lovely because I'm an origami artist and I used to cook. So I appreciate like the concept behind this restaurant already. It was just like an addition. But what was cool was I was asked to do a set of 3 pieces. I'm currently showing 2, 3. And this one was a lot of fun because I wanted to do, again, I wanted to do more modern, but more organic elements. I didn't want it to look like it belonged in an art gallery. I wanted it to look like it could be in an art gallery, but it's definitely, and it was like the craftsmanship is there, but I wanted it to feel more comforting. And that also determined the type of paper that I used. You can see it's more handmade. I guess you could say it's not, it's almost like lock cut paper, but not quite. It's not coarse and it's smooth to the touch, but think of thinner grocery bag paper. Almost that kind of feel, that kind of sound, that kind of weight. And for the flowers, I used a similar type of paper, also handmade, a little bit finer, I would say, in the quality. But what was exciting for me was that if you can kind of look at the petals, you can see that there's some of the flowers have more than 5. And it's because I use this technique and I'm like afraid to say it out loud because I couldn't believe it when I was doing it. I was like, I'm gonna get yelled at.
That means you need to say it out loud when that
Okay, so this is again the Kusudama flower that I'm making. It takes 5 modules to complete. Each module, each petal is like a double layer paper. So what I did was I not only cut the bottoms of the petals off so that the flowers could just lay flat versus at like a point on the surface. I cut the outer layer of my modules, and I'm like, oh my God, if anyone saw me doing this, it would be like cutting the tops of the asparagus off and throwing like throwing the tops away and keeping all like the bad parts for service. You know, I was just like, I can't believe I'm doing this, but it just felt right. And then after I did all the petals for one flower, I just started pinching it. I was like, oh God, I hope I know what I'm doing. Something happened, please. And I was able to kind of fluff the outer layer and add a little bit more dimension, complexity. And honestly, I think it adds a little bit more softness because it's not like I'm adding more modules, which is more layers of glue and paper. I'm just playing with that same model, that same module, that same petal, and I just decided to cut it and fluff it, and it just happened to work out. Yeah, I don't know if I felt comfortable. I felt a little guilty. I will try doing this technique again.
How big are the white flowers? How big are they?
On this piece here, this one we're looking at an 11 by 14. So I think the white flowers could be, oh man, if that's 11 inches, maybe about 3 inches, 2.5, 3. Yeah, so that was
And if
exciting.
they're going to be part of a series in a public place, do you frame them, put them in a box?
I actually have not framed any of my canvases for public viewing. I would love to. I feel like it's one of those things that escapes me, and by the time I think of it, it's like that's a goner. But I think I would practice with smaller pieces. I would like to do some more smaller size pieces because I'm used to doing about 36 inches, like 2 or 3 feet, like larger pieces. And doing smaller details on smaller work, I feel having a framed canvas would echo that. But if it's something that I feel will be handled delicately, or just the idea of a frame on my canvas it sounds interesting, but it could maybe take away that fluidity in what I'm trying to express too, like putting the barriers up.
Yeah, it does seem like you would definitely lose something, but if it's going to be, but you'd almost have to if it's going to be in a public space. I'm thinking about like in the restaurant or the building or somewhere like that.
Where people will not be able to contain themselves to touch it.
That just the time, time there's going to be dust, and I'm thinking in the restaurant, oils in the air and things that would eventually make it kind of trashed.
Yeah.
Or covered in, linty stuff.
For wall pieces that, oh God, I don't think I've done any for a restaurant. I've mainly done them for residential spaces. But typically for canvas pieces like this, I'll do like a matte spray, a protective spray. So that, or even if I'm like, okay, where are we putting this art piece to clients? And if it's near a window, I'll do like a protective UV spray. I'll do everything on my end as I can, but no, that's I have thought about how I would make work with a framed canvas, and it sounds really goofy, but that completely changes my canvas because now I have a border. And I have to try to make it look like, it wasn't intentional to try to keep everything within the fence, but
Do we want to take a look at this last one?
yeah.
Cool.
So this one is the second of 3 to that firm that I did. This is my favorite one. And my new element, like my new technique for this particular one is, if you're familiar with quilling, I'm trying to do my own play on quilling. I've practiced a bit, bought some kits, and you could see some small elements with a long strip of paper. This one's a larger, this is a 20 inch by 17 inch, I believe. But yeah, it was so much fun, and I wanted to make it really girly without being immature. I wanted it to be mature, subtle, pretty. The other ones were really intense with their sharp corners, edges. So I used like a softer paper, folded really like subtle but intricate roses. And then, yeah, I just wanted to be really whimsical and wispy and abstract. Just a lot of soft paper tones with this particular project. And it's kind of fun though, because the developer, well, my client sent me their design profile. So all the colors for the restaurant. I was like, oh, this is perfect. You literally just gave me a paint strip with all of the colors. And in the meeting that I had with my client, they're like, just know, we know you're going to try, but you can't match these colors perfectly. Like, there's no way. And I was like, okay, you win. But what I did instead, and this was the first time I ever used like the idea of music to help me problem solve. I thought instead of doing, if I can't match it, then I could either do tones that are higher or lower, like pitch, right? So I just tried to find color selections that were 1 or 2 tones brighter in each of the colors on that strip or darker. And I looked at my palettes and decided with which pitch I liked better. So it was fun to think about music. I'm definitely not musical though, but it just made me feel good, I guess, because that shows I was actively trying to learn. And I feel sometimes I'm scared of falling in that hump of being comfortable creating things that I know how to make that like don't really veer off out of that space. But it's nice to push myself.
That's great.
Yeah.
Any other questions from folks? Otherwise, I think we will all say thank you, Jade, for sharing your work with us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, big time.